As music producers, we're good with music, but we're not very good with business, and if we don't have business skills, how are we going to make money with our music? When it comes down to it, a lot of music producers lack the basic understanding of certain marketing principles that help them get their music sold. And since they don't have the understanding, they just market incorrectly, or they market themselves to where it's not very effective and the artists don't buy their music. They have trouble selling beats, therefore they have trouble making it a career. So in this video, I just want to help clear up a couple principles that are very important for you to understand if you want to market and sell your music correctly. The first thing is actually knowing your clients well enough and what their problems are and what they want versus selling them things that you think they want. We lack the understanding of what our clients want because we just haven't taken the time, put in the effort to truly ask them and see what it is that they want. There's two types of salesmen. If you walk into a car dealership, the first guy jumps on you and says, "Hey, I know what car is going to fit you. You look like you would fit in this car." And now the leather is absolutely top of the line. There's heated seats, there's massage seats, there's all these different features, these bells and whistles. But no matter how shiny and great those features are, if it's not what they're looking for, they're not going to buy it. Maybe that guy's in there to buy a minivan so he can drive his daughter and all her friends around. If the salesman never asks that question, they're never going to figure out what it is that they need to sell them on. And that's the same case with you. A good salesman asks the right questions to figure out exactly what your needs are and what you want and go based off of that, not just what you want to sell. A lot of times producers will be like, "This beat is great because it has this instrument, it has this, it's unique because nobody does this." Ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how unique you are. If it's not what the artist is looking for, they're not going to buy it. So the best way to figure out is actually go out to the marketplace, do some market research, ask some people that are actually your potential clients and see exactly what it is that they need. What's the biggest thing that's missing that most producers are not providing? And if they did, this would make them much more valuable. What is that? So you can go out and start asking some of these artists what it is that they're looking for, and I guarantee you they're going to give you an answer better than what you can think of, because whatever you think of is your assumption. You're not the artist, you're not your client, you're the producer, so you can only assume. You don't know for sure unless you ask. Number two is selling them on the actual struggle, the pain points that they're going through. No matter who the market is, people would rather buy their way out of an uncomfortable situation that they don't want to be in versus buying something that they want that is pleasurable. It's the difference between having wants and having needs. Needs are an absolute necessity and life is painful without having that resolve. And something that ties heavily to this concept is selling on emotion versus selling on logic. Logically, if you were to try to sell them, "Hey, you can get this beat for a lot cheaper, you're gonna get unlimited rights to it, you can publish to sync, you can do this, you can record to it," those are all logical reasons why they should buy, and you can only sell low price things with logic, because at the end of the day, for them to make the decision, all they need to think about is, what's the worst that could happen? I would just lose a little bit of money. But if you want someone to buy something more premium, more expensive from you, you have to sell them from an emotional standpoint, and you need to frame it that way. An example would be this. Let's say you're an artist. Let me know if this sounds familiar. Have you ever had a great song idea come to your head after having weeks of creative blocks and not being able to write anything? And you quickly rush to the computer and be like, "I need to put this song down. I need to find a beat that fits exactly this." And then you scroll through beats for hours and hours and hours, and you finally get so tired. Every song starts sounding the same. You put your head down and you just give up. And at this point, you've forgotten what the creative song that you were going to write. You've already forgotten your idea. Isn't that frustrating going through that process? On the other hand, if you work with a producer one-on-one, they can help flesh out that idea that you have, put it into a musical composition. That way you're not scouring the internet constantly trying to find the thing that fits, which it probably won't because they're already pre-made, and we can actually get out the exact idea that you need. So this is selling them on an emotional standpoint, because artists know what that process is like and how frustrating that can be to have a great song idea and forget it just like that because they're not finding the right instrumental. So the reason a lot of producers aren't making sales is because they're not hitting on these pain points and they're not articulating them and describing them well enough for the artist to be like, "That's exactly what I go through. How do you know?" And if you can describe a pain point to somebody better than they can themselves, they're automatically going to assume that you have the solution to it. So saying, "Let's work, let's collab, let's do this," that's selling them on logic. It would be cool if we worked together. You might have a cool, unique sound. Whereas if you describe their pain point and how you have a solution for that in a much more detailed, articulate way, they're going to believe that you have the solution. For example, let's say that you have this condition where there's this sharp pain in your left side of your chest. It shoots up to your head, shoots down your right arm goes numb and you can't feel it anymore. You've been going to a bunch of different doctors over the last couple of months. They tell you, hey, it might be because of COVID, it might be because you had the cold the other day, or it might be cancer. Depending on which answer is actually true is gonna make a huge drastic change on your life outcome. And so there's no clarity there. It's hard to know what to believe and it's hard to know who to trust when they don't tell you any exact information. Let's imagine you were talking to your buddy about this situation, you were describing what it was like, how you've been to the doctor, they can't find the solution. This homeless guy pops out of the bushes and jumps up and he was like, hey, that thing you're talking about, does it start off like in the left side of your chest? Does it shoot up to your head and it shoots down your arm? You can't feel your arm and you're stuck like that for like 10 minutes? Your reaction would be like, yes, that is exactly what it is. How do I fix it? Tell me, please. And mind you, the guy that just described this to you is a homeless guy that popped out of the bushes. He has no credentials. He has no PhD. Yet you're going to believe that he has the solution to your problem because he articulated it in a way where it feels like you're reliving it in your mind. Therefore, you're going to assume that he has the solution even though he's a homeless guy that popped out of the bushes. So this is the power of using emotion and leveraging your client's pain points to sell them on something, like your song production, your services. This may sound super dramatic, but this is the difference between those people that can sell really well and sell their music really well versus everyone who's just saying, let's collab, let's work, bro. How do you stand out of a sea of everybody that does the same thing? You have to understand exactly what their pain points are, because if they have a pain point and you dig your finger into that pain point, you're obviously gonna have their attention better than if there was no pain there. Because like I said, people would rather buy their way out of a painful situation they no longer want to be in versus buy themselves into something pleasurable. If you were a broke person and can barely afford food on the table, you would do whatever you possibly could and you would try really hard just to be able to afford that food. You don't have to be rich or anything, you just need to be able to afford that food and you would work really hard for it. Whereas if you were a middle class person and someone made you an offer to get really rich, you probably will not work as hard because you're comfortable in the current situation that you're in, because it's not painful, it's not the worst, it's manageable. And what's crazy is people start to bury these issues because it's the easiest way to feel like they're not failing, and it's the easiest way to go about life with a positive attitude. No matter how deep you bury that problem, it still exists, and that's the same way with these musical artists. There's situations, there's issues that they have problems with, but unless someone shows up and says, hey, this is your problem, this is how we can fix it, they're just gonna pretend like those aren't an issue. Whereas if you're a producer and you can articulate why this is a problem, why it's gonna continue hurting their career, and you can get them to buy your product and your service based on that because you can solve that problem, they're gonna be much more willing to invest a lot more money into you than the other producers. I know this is a little complicated and I said a lot of things, but I hope this is clear to you and that this helps you start thinking about how you're gonna market your music as a producer and how you can do it differently from the rest of the market, because that's gonna make you stand out. And I guarantee you, you're gonna get a lot more sales and a lot more clients if you put this into practice. If you wanna learn more about how to start a music business, how to produce well for artists, how to start a high ticket business so that you can sell your song productions for at least $1,000 a piece, I'm gonna leave a training down below. It's completely free to register. You can watch this training. It's gonna give you a lot of insight on how to create a high ticket business. And if you wanna learn more, you want a deeper dive, feel free to book a phone call with me. Otherwise, subscribe, like, do all those YouTube things, and I will see you in the next video.